Hello and welcome to Tech Deals. Will it play Overwatch on a Ryzen 3 1200 and a Sapphire Pulse RX 560 2GB graphics card? Essentially, we have a $100 CPU and a $100 graphics card. We do have 16 gigs of RAM, but that's not necessary. The performance you're about to see would be exactly the same with 8 gigabytes. We're playing at 1080p with the high detail preset at 100% render resolution. This video was recorded externally on an Elgato 4K 60 Pro capture card. We're playing at 1080p, but the 4K 60 Pro will do that just fine. No performance loss for the recording that you're about to see. The computer doesn't even know it's being recorded. MSI Afterburner for the real-time stats in the upper left-hand corner, and the average 1% low and 0.1% low numbers are provided by Fraps. In fact, in the upper right-hand corner just a second ago, you could see the yellow numbers, which went away when I pressed F10 to start the benchmark. This video is basically designed to show you that if you want to play beautiful games like Overwatch, you don't need super high-end computers. This is a fairly basic entry-level machine. I do have it overclocked, that's true. We are running at 3.7 fixed. If you look at the real-time performance numbers in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the clock speed of the CPU in line 3, the 3700 megahertz. Now, we are using a lot of the CPU. The graphics card, of course, is 100% and VSync is turned off, but take a look at that frame rate, the bottom line in the upper left-hand corner. We're over 100 frames per second. Yep, that is pretty good. The reality is, for games like Overwatch, for games like Heroes of the Storm, League of Legends, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, this actually is all that you need in most situations. Now, there are two detail settings above high. There's Ultra and then there's Epic. You could run it Ultra, you could run it Epic, it would still be extremely playable, but I'm showing it high because many competitive players want triple-digit frame rates in order to have super fast responsiveness, and as you can see here, it works very well. Look at line 2 of the real-time numbers. Now, we have a 2GB graphics card. There is also a 4GB version of the RX 560. It wouldn't make any difference because we're only using 1.4 gigabytes of the 2 gigabytes of VRAM. So, in this case, there'd be no difference whatsoever whether you buy the 2 or the 4. As I've commented in various videos and reviews, generally the smaller RAM amount is all you need for most games. There are exceptions, but when it comes to RX 560s, I think the 2GB card is usually the value. However, if there's only maybe a $10 or a $20 price difference between the 2 and the 4GB card, sure, there's nothing wrong with buying the 4 to give yourself maybe a little bit of future proofing or just to cover that 1 or 2 games that might be the exception to the rule. But if there's a $40 or $50 price difference, no way, just get the 2GB card. A couple of additional thoughts while this is running. First of all, this would still perform very good even if the CPU was not overclocked. It'd be a little bit slower, but not by much. It's really the graphics card here. There is a graphics card below a 560, the 550. Now, the 550 is notably lower in performance than the 560, but you could play Overwatch on a 550. Ideally, if you want frame rates this high, you'd probably have to turn the details down to medium, but it would do the job just fine. There's also the GTX 1050 and the GT 1030 from NVIDIA, which are very similar to these two cards. A 2GB GTX 1050 would be very, very similar to the performance you're watching. So if you have something like this machine and you get a GTX 1050, it'll be more or less like this. If you get a GT 1030, it will still play, but again, you'll have to turn the details down a bit or just accept a lower frame rate. It is also worth noting that the Ryzen 3 1200 is a 4-core, 4-thread CPU. If you have one of Intel's older i5s, frankly, anything going back to like an i5 2400, i5 3450, i5 4440 or 4460, any of the chips from the maybe 2nd to 7th generation, those are all 4-core, 4-thread chips just like this is. If you put this graphics card in any of those, you will get very similar performance. It'll be a little bit slower on the older ones, an i5 2400 might be a little bit slower than this, but it will still be absolutely playable and controllable. I have to give Blizzard credit for as beautiful as this game is, as fast-paced, as action-filled, as how many different characters you can play. The performance is spectacular, and it is a lot of fun. Please let me know down in the comments below if there's any other hardware that you'd like to see Overwatch tested on. Do you want to see a Pentium G4560? Do you want to see an older FX-based processor? Do you want to see a different graphics card or an older graphics card? Let me know down there which you want to see or what's most interesting or important to you, and I will see what I can do. Now there's less than a minute left in this particular match, so I'm going to let the whole thing stay in here for those of you curious to see the battle itself. In the past when I do these videos, usually I just chop them up and show you a couple of minutes worth, but when the actual match or the gameplay isn't too long, I figure maybe there's some people who want to see the actual outcome from start to finish. In this particular case, you're actually going to get to see the entire battle. Not to worry, I'm going to have a chart here in just a second with the average 1% low and 0.1% low, but just for the next 20 seconds or so before this match ends, I will say that if you've never played Overwatch, there's a character for everybody. D.Va is my main, and she's my favorite. She's very tanky, it's a lot of fun, but different people like different characters. This game's been out for a little while, but it's an absolute blast. Queue times are pretty short. And the nice thing is, once you bought the game, there's no more money to spend. It's buy to play, so while it's not free, you can find it on sale at times. There we go, it was a defeat, but this is pretty cool. I'm going to leave this in here because, well, reasons I can. Now, even though that we lost, I did get play of the game, so yeah, it's fun, why not? So this particular use of my ultimate going over here, I did get a triple kill. Not that it helped us win, but it was kind of fun. Alright, enough of that. Let's go on to the benchmark results. We had an average of 112 frames per second throughout that entire gameplay. 89 frames per second, 1% low, 68 frames per second, 0.1% low. That is nearly perfect performance. If you have a 60 hertz monitor and you turn VSync on, basically it will be solid 60 frames per second 100% of the time. 99% of the time, if you have a higher frame rate 1080p monitor, you'd be over 89 frames per second. Considering this is a $100 CPU and a $100 graphics card, that's incredible. Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you loved it. Remember to subscribe to my channel with the big huge red button directly below. Questions and comments in the comment section, and check out the links in the video description. Links to buy Overwatch will be down there. Links to various hardware parts including the Ryzen 3 1200, the RX 560 will also be down there as well. And then of course you can find my support links for Patreon, PayPal, etc. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.